This conversation is about my father, Ryland Wesley Crary, a naval lieutenant and a Peace Corps leader, as well as a philosopher of education. In the family, my sisters tend to regard their father as a personality. I don't believe that anyone who knew him would necessarily dispute that he was a personality of sorts. He had a avuncular sense of humor, and he was animate. I saw him go down a water slide at a hotel in Canada in front of gleeful clapping children in a three-piece suit as a little boy. But more importantly, he was an educator. And he wrote books on the philosophy of education. He believed in his profession, which I think is the reason why it was somewhat easy for him to leave several wives with children and not look back and to not notice the terrible suffering visited upon me, which had consequences for all of us, even throughout the Commonwealth. Because he believed in public education. And the message being sent by the people who tortured me is an if-then strategy. If you go out, he drove a school bus in retirement and drive school buses and teach schools. He has books like Humanizing the School, sold 50,000 copies. There's a professor, George Mason, who thinks it should be back in print. Was influential. Humanizing the School, America's Stake in Human Rights from the 1940s, is back in print as a forgotten book. So he was influential. And their if-then strategy is if you go in this humanist direction and leave your families, then your children will be sold into slavery. And this is the situation that has characterized the Trump generation in the city of Seattle. Even in Pittsburgh, there were consequences for his vocation. A woman named Mrs. Berkowitz had her daughter tell me, "My mother wants you to call her Ishmael." And I said, "Hello, Ishmael." And she said, "Thank you." Ishmael was the narrator of Moby Dick, who went in search of the great white shark. And this quest for virginity that was written into the drama club of guerrilla theater that went on. Berkowitz was a Zionist and a very intelligent one. They gave me things like Tin Drum to read about the man who never grew up. He stayed a little boy. And Tin Drum was adopted because Tin Man wanted oil by the tin machine, by Putin, as a symbol of this quest for virginity as a holy grail in male mortality. The Trump strategy was to purchase the Seattle left with the help of Robert F. Kennedy. They got down and dirty and bought the sensibilities of the Seattle left. Now, the script from Zion, Gail Burstyn, the moral code of the war over virginity, was written as a court action. AIDS was legally being justified. And they had Zappa in place to sabotage that hope by pretending to find it and creating a cultural struggle about it, rather than a court action, so the perpetrators are all still at large. Now, what media has done, what has happened in media, is the media has been overtaken by a broadcast sports club, a fight club sports broadcast. Media has become a Fight Club sports broadcast. And the way that they played the game in Seattle, Washington was to position the Seattle left to say, aha, we have dominance of the moral code in this matter. So the idea that you should be trying to educate people is shunted and pushed aside in favor of advertising elements of the drama club, guerrilla theater that went on behind the scenes to manipulate snuff films, slasher homicides, the various things that the Seattle left do to promote their hero in this, which is, of course, the script writers, people like Berkowitz and Donald Trump, the Zionists.